one or the other, I can't remember. But yes, Mr. Snow, we can have that conversation at a later date because I was on the learning committee when we had that vote. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Vargas.
Yes.
Wayne.
Yes.
Williams.
Aye.
Fay.
Aye.
Godding.
Aye.
America.
Aye.
Scanlon.
Aye.
Snow.
No.
Underwood.
Aye.
8 aye, 1 no.
Motion carries. Moving to learning community open enrollment student achievement.
Basically, same thing. Statutory language talks about student achievement, and that's why it's listed separately. In the broader conversation that we had as we reviewed this, we really have not seen huge impact on student achievement as a result of this. So I can't tell you that we could identify a huge increase in that. But if we're going to use this, we want it funded external to TIOSA. So it's kind of back to the first one.
I'll entertain a motion to approve or disapprove the superintendent's recommendation report for transportation or open enrollment on student achievement.
Make a motion to recommend support for the learning community open enrollment student achievement as recommended in the learning community superintendent's report.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Scanlon. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Ms. Williams. Any discussion? Mr. Snow.
I would like to say again, like Mr. Evans said, I don't think many people think about it, but the learning community has even said it themselves. There's no proof that a kid going from one school to another school that they do better because they could have stayed at the other school and still done just as well. So I'll be voting no on this again. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Mr. Scanlon.
I'd just like to comment on Mark's comments that is a big belief in my mind that you worry about what you can control, and what we can control is what's being taught in our schools, what quality of education is being provided in OPS, and I think that bodes into what you're saying is you can't just solve the problem by busing a kid from a high poverty area to a low poverty area. What we can do and what we can do as a school district best promote our teachers in our classrooms and tackle those issues, and that's going to produce more success. And that, I know, is what you're coming with. And you know, throwing people from school to school isn't going to do it. We need to focus in on what we can control, and I think that's what we need to get back to focusing on as a school board and as a district. So I appreciate your comments.
I agree with you.
Any more comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Wayne.
No.
Williams.
Aye.
Fay.
Aye.
Godding.
Aye.
America.
Aye.
Scanlon.
Aye.
Snow.
No.
Underwood.
Aye.
Vargas.
Aye.
7 aye, 2 no.
Motion carries. Crossing off stuff. All right. I know I just crossed that off on accident. Learning community transportation for open enrollment.
Same as the other two, only instead of student movement, student achievement, now it's just open enrollment, and the recommendation is the same. If we're going to maintain it, pay for it external to TIOSA.
I'll entertain a motion to approve or disapprove recommendation on learning community transportation for open enrollment.
I move to support the learning community transportation for open enrollment as stated in the learning community superintendent report.
Motion by Ms. Williams, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Scanlon. Any discussion? Roll call.
Williams.
Aye.
Fay.
Aye.
Godding.
Aye.
America.
Aye.
Scanlon.
Aye.
Snow.
No.
Underwood.
Aye.
Vargas.
Aye.
Wayne.
No.
7 aye, 2 no.
Motion carries. Moving to learning E1K, Learning Community Focus Schools. Mr. Evans.
The recommendation here is to continue the state support for focus schools. Currently, there's only one in the learning community, and that's Wilson Focus School, with a request for an expanded commitment of state funding. Currently, state funding does not provide for all the extra costs of Wilson Focus.
There a motion on the floor to approve or disapprove? Oh, we don't follow Robert rules to a guideline. Well, Mr. Snow, Scanlon, then Ms. Underwood, did you have your hand? Okay, so we'll go in that order. Mr. Snow? Oh, no, I thought there was a question. Okay, Mr. Scanlon.
I was just curious if Mark, you could present or provide some insight. Is there support amongst the other superintendents in the learning communities for a focus school that we had previously? I know Wilson Focus School was originally a collaboration of the different learning community school districts, but that kind of, my understanding, is kind of lost traction. Could you expand on that? And is there support for a future learning community-wide focus school?
We didn't have any conversation about an additional focus school, so I didn't hear any support for it. There was no conversation. But there was conversation to increase Wilson Focus funding.
I entertain a motion to approve. Oh, Ms. Underwood, sorry. I said Ms. Underwood, and it was dead silent, so I thought I was supposed to jump in. I'm sorry.
Okay. One of the questions I had in the small group meetings that we had on this is, and maybe it'll help answer where you were going, Mr. Scanlon, too. I was just curious if there in the past had been interest in opening additional focus schools, and if the roadblock was funding, and the answer was yes and yes. So that was important to me as I thought about this recommendation.
Jump in, somebody.
I do believe that's accurate, that there are some school districts that if the funding was higher, they might have it in their own district, but not a replica of what I understand was actually a pretty good model 3-4 years ago. But I didn't hear anything about replicating that, but I know there have been some districts that said they'd do something in their own district if the funding was higher.
That
Mr.
was,
Snow.
no, sorry, thank you, Mr. President. That was just my comment there. It was a successful program, and they pulled out because it cost too much. Is that what they're saying? I'm just, that's what many people assume. It just seems like something that was working on really reaching kids, and other school districts pulling out kind of waters down the overall mission of a focus school.
That wasn't the only reason they pulled out. The pathway, I'm not going to go into the history of it, but the pathway wasn't clearly defined and accepted by everybody. When I mean pathway, where those students go afterwards. And that created a huge problem when certain schools were picked inside of OPS that folks didn't want to send their kids to, in my personal opinion. And I'll say that. So there is a motion. I'll entertain a motion to approve or disapprove learning community focus schools funding as submitted in the superintendent's report.
Move to support the continued support, I guess, for Wilson Focus School as indicated in the superintendent's learning community report.
There's a motion on the floor by Mrs. Godding. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mrs. Godding, second by Mrs. Underwood. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Fay.
Aye.
Gadding.
Aye.
America.
Aye.
Scanlon.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Underwood.
Aye.
Vargas.
Aye.
Wayne.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
9 aye.
Motion carries. Moving to E1L, Learning Community Early Childhood Education.
This item refers to the superintendent's plan, which is actually done in conjunction with the Buffett Early Childhood Foundation, which is providing resources to early childhood programs, not just for classrooms, but for parent training, as Mr. Scanlon mentioned earlier, under the direction of superintendents and Dr. Mizels and the learning community as well. So this is a recommendation to maintain that we're getting good results, and we're expanding that in the learning community. We're hopeful to have, I believe, Dr. Kerberg, 9 schools will be potentially a part of that early childhood expansion support program, because it's really a support program. Is it not, approximately 9 is what we're hoping?
There's 9 full site implementations, and we'll be applying, but we don't know how many we'll get. But yes, 9 full site implementations, locations.
And the recommendation is that we support that and continue the support of the early childhood program.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to support the recommendation for the early education in the Learning Community Superintendent's Report.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Scanlon, second by Ms. Williams. Any comments, discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Gadding.
Aye.
America.
Aye.
Scanlon.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Underwood.
Aye.
Vargas.
Aye.
Wayne.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Fay.
Aye.
9-9.
Motion carries. Moving to Learning Community Early Learning Centers, or Elementary Learning Centers, sorry. Mr. Evans.
These are the North and South Omaha early learning centers, elementary early learning centers, showing great promise, of course, down south, and now we're just now expanding to up north, and just opened up, I believe, this month with that program. This is a recommendation to continue.
I'll entertain a motion.
I motion to support the Learning Community Elementary Learning Centers as outlined in the Learning Community Superintendent's Advisory Report.
There's a motion on the floor by Ms. Williams. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion on the floor by Ms. Williams, second by Mr. Scanlon. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
America.
Aye.
Scanlon.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Underwood.
Aye.
Vargas.
Aye.
Wayne.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Fay.
Aye.
Gadding.
Aye.
9-9.
Motion carries. Moving to E1N, Learning Community Governance Structure.
This item is just a recommendation that we maintain the structure with some reports that are redundant being removed. I know that Dr. Poole is responsible for some reporting, that the learning community also does some redundant reporting. I think this is the removal of that redundant reporting.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the recommendation or not to approve.
I move to support the Learning Community Governance Structure recommendation in the Learning Community Superintendent Report.
There's a motion by Ms. Williams,
Second.
second by Mrs. Gotti. Any discussion? This doesn't say that we support the structure. It says that we support eliminating any redundant reporting. Am I missing something?
It talks about maintaining the focus and mission duties.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Any more discussion? Mr. Scanlon.
I think the fact that it says eliminate any redundant reporting helps just clarify that we want to continue going on, but we want to remove some of those layers of redundant bureaucracy that are unneeded.
Any other comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Scanlon.
Aye.
Snow.
Aye.
Underwood.
Aye.
Vargas.
Aye.
Wayne.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Fay.
Aye.
Gadding.
Aye.
America.
Aye.
9-9.
Motion carries. Moving to Learning Community Superintendent Advisory Council.
The advisory council is part of statutory requirement. The recommendation is to maintain it because we've worked together collectively on the early childhood plan, as well as the goals program, which is a truancy prevention program. So the recommendation is to maintain that part of the statutory requirement.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move to support the Learning Community Superintendent's Advisory Council per the Learning Community Superintendent's Advisory Council report.
It's a lot of superintendent advisory.
There's a motion on the floor by Mrs. Williams. Is there a second?
Second?
Motion on the floor by Mrs. Williams, second by Mrs. Underwood. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Snow.
Aye.
Underwood.
Aye.
Vargas.
Aye.
Wayne.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Fay.
Aye.
Gadding.
Aye.
America.
Aye.
Scanlon.
Aye.
9-9.
Motion carries. Moving to information item E2. This is more as information. If the board is okay with the process, it's not really an action item, it's more of information at this point, but if we give staff direction, this will be published tomorrow. If we have to make changes, we'll come back on the 17th, but the quicker we get this out, I think CBOC isn't really the best term for it, but the Citizen Bond Oversight Committee. And what we'll try to do is mimic kind of how we're doing the OSERS process, in the sense of we will take applications over the next 2 weeks if board collectively says this is the direction we want to go. We'll review those. People have to sign conflicts of interest and those kind of things to be on the Citizen Oversight Committee. But this is a way for us to make sure as we move through the process of the bond, there is a public group that is engaged and working with the district to make sure that we are transparent and accountable. I'd like to have feedback on this, if at all possible. Ms. Ray, you have anything you want to add?
Just as a kind of a follow-up to the OSERS 1.2 and CBOC, that they'll both be available on the OPS website using Talent Ed with HR. So if the board approves this and we move forward, it'll be a link that we can make active tomorrow that I can send out too, because I know that some of you have already had some inquiries for members to be a part of CBOC and to participate, so you'll be able to send that link on as early as tomorrow.
In addition to that, we should probably have it at least for a couple of days on the front page of our website so people know that this is out there. But board members, if there are people who you know or you want to serve on this, please make sure they fill out an application and then, send a follow-up email to Mr. Ray as, kind of a letter of reference saying this is kind of somebody that I might, that we've talked to, I think would be good. And then we'll vet all this and bring it back to the entire board and get this committee started. But everybody will have input. But we want to make sure it's a fair process. So if you have people who may be interested, they still need to apply, because we have to make sure that there are conflict checks. That's pretty important when we talk about scheduling and procurement and those kind of things, because some of these people might get a little bit of a head start of information, but we have to make sure that there's no conflicts. Mrs. Gotti.
I just want to make sure, can you also do that for the OSERS application piece, put that on the
Yes.
front page of the website as well, just so that we are very transparent on both of these opportunities for the public?
And on both, we're expecting them to stay open for the 2 weeks, so they'd close the November 26th for both.
Mrs. Fay.
So explain to me the process for selecting the committee members.
We will, well, depending upon the number, we will get people, get everything in, and then bring them for recommendations to the board. We don't have a set number. If there's 150 people, obviously we can't have 150 people, but this is part of the conversation of, if only 20 people apply, then you figure if you have 20 people on a committee, only 10 to 12 typically show up to everything, and you communicate via email and other ways to the other 8. to make sure they stay just from conflicts. But I know Jacobs has recommended around 10 people in the past, but I think the board probably wants more than that. So that's just an ongoing conversation. We have not set a set dead limit on this yet. But the board's ultimately going to decide.
So I guess I'm more interested in the step before the recommendation comes to the board, and that's the vetting part. Because if, say, 15, Jacob said 10, you mentioned 20, say 15 is the magic number. If there's 25 applications, I mean, who's going to vet them?
Well, Mr. Ray, myself, or the officers, if any board member wants to sit down after Thanksgiving, we'll have because if we go tomorrow, it'll close roughly before Thanksgiving. We can set a time, as long as there's not quorum, we can set a time and board members can come in and help vet that. We haven't defined that part.
Okay.
It was more important for us to get out in the public of here's how to start the process.
All right, thank you.
Ms. America.
I wonder, is there a requirement that we have to do specifically 2 weeks versus do it, saying like November 30th? Just because I imagine a lot of people have extra time over the holiday that they might want to sit down and do that versus when they're preparing for Thanksgiving. And we're not really going to be looking at the applications between the 26th and 30th, I'm expecting.
We might be.
I was
You
going
might be.
Yes,
I know you
Mr.
might be, but
Matt Ray, we've already
the
blocked
time
out
with your
time
kids.
Yeah.
on Thanksgiving. I think the
Thanksgiving.
morning of Thanksgiving.
I'm thankful for CBOC.
So, but no, I looked at, 2 weeks I think was a standard application process, but we can extend that.
We
correct?
tried to match it with what we thought we'd need back from OSERS to meet with some of the OSERS deadlines, but Friday would be fine as well. It was really about getting a chance to close it, get the material together for actual review with that weekend, but
That's
Friday would be fine.
Okay. So we'll do that.
Can we do it Friday also for OSERS as
Yes,
well? Let's
I'd
just
make
go
them
ahead.
match, so we're
Okay,
consistent.
perfect.
Any other thoughts? Mrs. Underwood, followed by Mr. Vargas.
Just because I think that, it's a very good thing. I think that a lot of community members are interested in the bond process and projects moving forward. We might get some confusion on ed specs versus the bond oversight committee. So if we could maybe provide, maybe it's a link just for, bond information, and we provide, very clearly what the ed specs team consists of and looks like for each of our projects, plus the bond oversight committee. Because I'm just concerned that there might be some, parents at individual schools that are getting projects that might think that this is what they need to be involved with, when really it's the ed specs committee, just for clarity's sake.
Mr. Vargas.
Yeah, it's actually along the same lines. It's making sure that there's, I don't know if it's like a one-pager that sort of just differentiates the different types of roles and what they're going to do, and is a little bit more, user-friendly in terms of the language. And also just want to make sure that, and it's not stated in here, I don't know how to actually explicitly state it, but that there is a representation of geographic diversity on this. Yeah, I just want to make that because there's just many different stakeholders involved in this from different parts, and you don't want it to lean one way or the other, given the different priorities for different areas. And it would be helpful if, just to build transparency for the community and for ourselves on the process, if there's just drafting up that vetting process that Ms. Fay was mentioning, some, just saying what are the, if these are the characteristics, and if you're using some rubric score really simple and you're just, each taking it a person, or we're going to each take a, candidate profile and rate it on a rubric, two of us are going to do it, and then we're going to take the top 10% based off that. This way there's just, I know for me, I've heard from some people in my community, they're like, who are these people, how are they going to get picked? What are the determinants? How are we going to make sure that it is a good cross sample and these people are truly committed, have a strong fit, as much of a strong business acumen or sort of background, for this type of work. So if we could put something together like that, really simple, that just we could share, that would be fantastic. And then the last thing is just making sure that this is communicated in Spanish. This way we can communicate it out to South Omaha and other areas of the city.
Thank you. Anything else? Moving on to closed session.
I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals to discuss with the superintendent, secretary to the board, and legal counsel, personnel update and negotiation.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Gotti, second by Ms. Williams. Any discussion? Roll call.
Underwood,
Aye.
Vargas,
Aye.
Wayne,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Fay,
Aye.
Gadding,
Aye.
America,
Aye.
Scanlon. Aye. Snow.
Aye.
9-9.
Motion carries. Let me remind the board that the purpose of closed session is for the protection of the public interest and for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals to discuss with the superintendent, secretary of the board, and legal counsel personnel update and negotiation. Let the record reflect the board went into a closed session at 9:01 p.m.